Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Paramahansa Padavachakacharya Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavachakacharya Suttara Satashi Shrimanas Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Ki Jai. Ananta Gaudi Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai. Brihat Madanga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 14, Text 47. Yat prasadam idam vishvam. Yat prasadat idam vishvam. Prasidati yat atmakam. Prasidati yat atmakam. Saswadrig Bhagavan Yasya. Saswadrig Bhagavan Yasya. Toshyate Nanyaya Drisha. Toshyate Nanyaya Drisha. Yat prasadadidam vishvam. Prasidati yadatmakam. Saswadrig Bhagavan Yasya. Toshyate Nanyaya Drisha. Others? Vaishnavis. Yet, by whose? Prasadat, mercy of. Idam, this. Vishvam, universe. Prasidati, becomes happy. Yat, whose? Atmakam, because of his omnipotence. Sa, he. Swadrik, taking special care for his devotees. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yasya, whose? Toshyate, becomes pleased. Ananyaya, without deviation. Drisha, by intelligence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. This is Kashyapa Muni speaking. Everyone will be pleased with him because the personality of Godhead, the supreme controller of the universe, is always satisfied with a devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him. So once again, that was Kashyapa Muni speaking, and he's speaking about Prahlad Maharaj. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated everywhere as the Supersoul, and he can dictate to anyone and everyone as he likes. The would-be grandson of Diti, who was predicted to be a great devotee, would be liked by everyone, even by the enemies of his father, because he would have no other vision besides the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure devotee of the Lord sees the presence of his worshipable Lord everywhere. The Lord reciprocates in such a way that all living entities in whom the Lord is dwelling as the Supersoul also like a pure devotee, because the Lord is present in their hearts and can dictate to them to be friendly to his devotee. There are many instances in history wherein even the most ferocious animal became friendly to a pure devotee of the Lord. Om Agyanatimiranda Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milikam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. So in the translation here to the verse, it says, a devotee who does not wish for anything beyond him referring to the Lord. So what does that mean? Now, if somebody were to come up to you and say, I don't wish for anything beyond you, what would they be saying? In essence, what would they be expressing to you? They'd be expressing their love. They'd be expressing, I actually have love for you, and I desire that you have love for me. That's my understanding of what that phrase means. Who does not wish for anything beyond him or Krishna. That's what's being expressed there. So that's that's like the ideal goal. We want to come to that stage where we're feeling that we don't want anything beyond Krishna. And they say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So it begins with following rules and regulations. The basic things, performing tapasya. Tapasya means voluntarily accepting inconvenience to both the mind and the body, for the purpose of getting purified, making spiritual advancement. And so that can be challenging, but that's the price. That's the price we have to pay for developing our love for Krishna. And there will be challenges involved, but we should understand that that's just par for the course, and we should not become discouraged. We should be prepared to persevere. Like this morning, I was hearing about some challenges that are being experienced in the deity department. One devotee was telling me about things that are going on. I was kind of surprised because I always thought, wow, things are going so well in the deity department. Based upon just when I come into the temple room and it's time for greeting the deities, I feel the spiritual potency. And sometimes I come to Mangal Artik and the door is open and the chanting begins, and you feel. I mean, it's a pronounced difference in terms of consciousness and how I feel when I'm just 30 seconds or a minute before outside, and all of a sudden I'm in here. The door is open and devotees are starting to chant, or the Govindam prayers are starting to play, and it's a different. I mean, it's a different, as I said, a distinctly different consciousness. So my point is, somebody must be doing something right. I mean, I was hearing about all these different challenges that are being faced, but somebody must be doing something right, because there's that Vedic aphorism, Palena Parichate, you judge a process by the result. So at least I'm experiencing the result, which is that I'm feeling uplifted, enlivened, and ecstatic as a result of all the sincere efforts that different devotees are making to serve Rukmini Dwarkadish, Gunatai, and Jagannath Baldev Subhadra. So, but yet, nonetheless, there's challenges involved, and that's to be expected. That's that's as I said, it's par for the course. But we should never become discouraged. So a lot of times it's just Krishna testing us. Krishna testing us to help us get more serious, and as bad as it might seem, as bad as it at any point in your devotional service, as difficult as it might be, and as bad as it might seem, as hopeless as it might seem, things can change in a moment in Krishna consciousness. Devamrita Swami, yesterday in the class he was giving, he made this comment about in response to the question I asked at the end about, we're dealing with two realities. There's the reality of the three modes of material nature, and as according to the three modes of material nature, you can sort of understand things should happen in a certain way. But then there's the Krishna factor, which overrides, supersedes the modes of material nature. In other words, devotee can be experiencing great difficulty in their service, and to the point where it's that the person is feeling, this is hopeless. This is like, forget it. There's no way I'm going to be successful doing this. But if you just persevere, if you just don't throw in the towel, just stick with it. Just keep, as Prabhupada says in this purport that I'm very fond of, he says, if we adhere to the lotus feet of the six Goswamis and pray for their mercy, all impediments will be annihilated, and the transcendental devotional desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. So in other words, if we adhere to the lotus feet of the spiritual master, the instructions of the spiritual master, that's one thing. And the other thing is pray for the mercy. You've got to do both things. You got to really try to follow the instructions, the basic, things what we know is supposed to, and in addition to that, pray for the mercy. And then according to this, what the outcome will be that impediments will be annihilated, and the transcendental devotional desire to serve the Supreme Lord will be fulfilled. And when you do that, you experience it. That's what happens. That's what happens. So that's why devotees should never get discouraged. Never throw in the towel, because you might be thinking there's no hope, but Krishna can just change everything at a drop of a hat. Literally, things night and day change. I've experienced that repeatedly. To be honest with you, I almost experience that on a daily basis. When I go out on Sankirtan, it's just that you go out, you start, and you just think, this is hopeless, forget it, there's nobody here. And I'm feeling really tired, and I'm feeling really like my mind is disturbed, and forget it. but you just, no. I just know from experience, no, this is just Maya, the tricks of Maya. Let me just keep going, and let me just roll up my sleeves, dig in, okay. Hare Krishna, Hare, Bande Rupa Sanatana, we're going to just, start doing your service, pray for the mercy, and amazingly, things change. You can go from having like what you think is the worst day of your life to the most incredible experience you've ever had, just by sticking with it. Because, as I said, Krishna can just enable you to transcend the modes of material nature at any moment. And he does that in reciprocation. He's watching, just like it's talking about in this verse, how he's the super soul. He's in control of everything and everybody's intelligence, and so he's watching, and he can understand. He can understand what's internally what's going on, how much we're, how sincere we are, how much we're trying, despite whatever difficulties we're experiencing, in our mind and our body with other people. He can perceive. He knows, and at some point he becomes pleased with the struggle. He can understand, okay, this person's sincerely struggling to kind of to follow, to surrender. And he reciprocates with that, and then everything changes. And it's like it's described here in this verse, because everybody would like Prahlad Maharaj. Why? Because Krishna's pleased with him. So Krishna's pleased with him, and Krishna's in everyone's heart. So Krishna dictates to all the people, hey, this is my pure devotee, be nice to him, like him, And then that's what everybody does. And that's actually the secret to success in preaching. Prabhupada mentions that in the purport in the 4th canto. He says, the pure devotee, he's always desiring how to spread Krishna consciousness. And he says, I can't remember the exact words, but then he says, and in reciprocation for his desire, Krishna enlightens the general populace from within by his causeless mercy. See? So that's a big factor in it, that it's Krishna reciprocating with the pure devotee. The pure devotee is desiring to spread the Krishna consciousness movement very sincerely, and Krishna is, aware of that. And at some point, Krishna reciprocates. How? By enlightening the general populace from within by his causeless mercy. And actually, that's how we have a Krishna consciousness movement. And that's Prabhupada himself thought like that about the Krishna consciousness movement. There was a there was a letter he wrote to Sudama in about 1972. He said, when I was alone in New York, I was thinking, who will listen to me in this horrible, sinful place? But at least I can distribute a few of my books. That is something. But Krishna was all along planning something I could not see. So in other words, Prabhupada's saying, Krishna's observing, Krishna's watching. And he's watching, he's evaluating, and eventually he responds. That's how it works. Krishna, especially for devotees, for everybody. Actually, this is what I just said holds true for every living entity, every human being, and particularly because human beings are responsible for whatever they do. Animals are not. Below the human form of life, they're not responsible for it. They're just acting according to instinct. But when you come to the human form of life, you're responsible for what you do. So Krishna is observing, evaluating, and then eventually responding to, and particularly for devotees, because devotees are kind of like in Krishna's inner circle. So Krishna was observing, evaluating, and at some point Krishna responded. And how did he respond? He sent, getting back to Prabhupada, I say, he sent you nice young American boys and girls one by one for doing the work of Lord Chaitanya. And Prabhupada said, now I could see it's a miracle. He said that. He felt, well, it was a miracle. You see? So, Prabhupada didn't come up. Prabhupada's mood wasn't, yeah, here I am, I'm the pure devotee, and I'm going to make this happen. No. Prabhupada's mood was, okay, my spiritual master asked me to do this. I don't know how it's possible. These people, in that prayer, that arrival prayer, these people are covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. How are they going to be able to understand the message of Vasudeva? I don't know how I'm going to be able to, right? You remember that prayer on the Jaladuta? So Prabhupada was feeling like that, helpless, not hopeless, but certainly helpless. And that's why he said it was a miracle. Krishna made the miracle. He said, otherwise, how could one old man with barely enough money to buy his food survive? What to speak of establish a movement for spreading God consciousness all over the world? And then he repeated again. He said, now I can see it's Krishna's miracle. So that's how it works, Prabhupada was feeling like that. So we really just have to remember that and not get discouraged, keep going, keep trying, and keep praying, and Krishna can do miracles. He does. And it's not black and white, as he says in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Yaya tamam papajante tam sataiva bhajamiyaham. As they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So, the more we kind of take shelter of this principle, what I was just describing, the more we're going to experience that reciprocation. If we just kind of try a bit to hang in there, then okay, then Krishna will reciprocate a bit. But if we're really taking shelter of that and really trying, okay, let me keep going, let me keep trying, praying, and Krishna can reciprocate really big time. Can experience that as well. So that's there. And Prabhupada in the purport here, he refers to, he didn't give an example, but he does make reference to the point, says that there are many instances in history wherein even the most ferocious animal becomes friendly to a pure devotee of the Lord. So, of course, there's that example of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was in the cave, remember? And, people were coming, there was a poisonous snake there, big poisonous snake. So people would come and visit him, and they could understand that the poisonous snake was there, and they were saying to Haridas Thakur, come on, you got to get out of here. It's like this, you just, at any day, any moment, this snake could come and bite you, and that's that. So Haridas Thakur was going, yeah, it's okay, it'll work out, But the people kept nagging him and saying, no, come on. So for them, he said, okay, look, if the snake doesn't leave by a certain time, I'll go. So Haridas Thakur was chanting, and then the snake, Krishna dictated, the snake just came out, crawled out of the cave and went. So Krishna, dictated like that. And of course, there's the example of Lord Chaitanya himself. Of course, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he was in the role of a devotee. Lord Chaitanya was, playing the role of a devotee. So when he was going through the forest of Jarikanda, all the wild animals were not wild. They became, the tigers were not ferocious. They were embracing the deer, and et cetera, et cetera. The wild elephants became, calm, and so like that. So that, there's, as Prabhupada said, there's many instances in history where even ferocious animals become friendly to a pure devotee of the Lord. And yeah, so that's one thing that happens. That's one of the benedictions one receives as a result of, surrendering to Krishna. Other people become, kind of cooperative, favorable to a certain extent. I mean, it's also said about the 6 Goswamis, Dira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito, that they were popular both with the gentle and with the ruffians because they were not envious of anyone, because they were pure devotees of Krishna. So that's there. Another thing another benefit of becoming dear to Krishna, of becoming somebody who doesn't desire anything, doesn't wish for anything beyond Krishna, is that Krishna enlightens that devotee from within. People become favorable towards that devotee, but that devotee he understands the philosophy, and he's able to explain it to other people in a way that helps them appreciate it, and helps them become enlivened about it, and encourages them in their devotional service. And be honest with you, I feel like I had an example of that just yesterday when Devamrita Swami Maharaj gave class. I was thinking, and I kind of touched upon when I made my comment or question. At the end, I said, "Wow, I've been reading this Bhagavatam for 50 years, and I didn't get these points he was bringing up. How I love the way he kind of saw the continuity, the connection between Diti, how she's behaving here, how she behaves later in the 6th canto, where she flip-flops and she kind of, all of a sudden, she wants revenge again, but she doesn't try to get revenge against Krishna, obviously, but so she's trying to get revenge against Indra. She identifies him as the cause of her problem. I thought, man, that's brilliant. And, an analogy occurred to me, okay? And this is we'll put the whole thing in perspective. how many, when you were back in school, did you guys, anybody here used to use Cliff Notes? They call them Spark Notes now, I believe. But back in the day, they were called Cliff Notes. Anybody, raise your hand if you used Cliff Notes when you were a student. Okay, I know I did. And so what these were guides to help students understand what the heck they were reading. And I remember I found them very useful because, like for instance, in high school, for instance, we had to study Shakespeare. And you told Shakespeare is the bard, he's like he's brilliant, and he's, in the non-devotee world, he's kind of like looked up to, like a Vyasadeva kind of thing. But, I suppose he was, but for me, just a kid from the Bronx who had like, 1,000-word vocabulary or something like that, I'd read it and I'd go, what the heck? I couldn't figure out, couldn't make heads or tails out of it a lot of times. What to speak of appreciate, the profundity and the artistry of Shakespeare. I was lost. But I'd get the Cliff Notes and I'd read that and I'd go, whoa, okay, that's what this is all about. That's what this is talking about. And then when I understood the meaning, then I'd look up, use the dictionary and look up the names, and I got something out of it like that. I was able to, appreciate in that way. So I was just thinking how, like, my experience yesterday was, and on other occasions, as devotees, sometimes they're like that. They can illuminate, they can what Krishna is saying, or Prabhupada is saying, or what the Bhagavatam is saying. Anyway, I had that experience. I felt like, wow, he's helping me understand the meaning of this Bhagavatam, the meaning, the significance, the importance. It just, the whole thing became, wow, my appreciation for the Srimad Bhagavatam. I felt my appreciation for the Srimad Bhagavatam increasing as a result of hearing him speak yesterday, giving that class. And that's, to be honest with you, that's not the first, it's consistently. Devamrita Swami has been visiting here over the years. So that's, and I asked him afterwards, I said, Maharaj, how do you read where did you get these ideas from, that you're mentioning? Is it because you're reading commentaries from the previous acharyas? And, you're getting the ideas from them? And he said, well, no, I just really try to just, stick with Prabhupada's purports, and I just pay attention to what's in front of me. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Here in Los Angeles, about 1970, when the Nectar Devotion came out, Prabhupada gave a class, and in the class he said, okay, now this valuable book, Nectar Devotion, has come out. And he said, so everybody should get a copy, and you should read it once, twice, thrice, until you have threadbare understanding. He said, as soon as you come across something you don't understand, don't come running to me and say, Prabhupada, what is this, what is this? He said, read it, think about it, and reread it, and think about it. And then he said, the meaning will emerge. See, Krishna reveals. So I kind of feel like, yeah, that's what he's doing, and that's why he's able to explain things like that, because he reads and he thinks about it, and he's thinking about what he read there, and he's relating it to what he's reading here, and he's how to understand it. That's why he's able to come up with all these amazing, brilliant points. You see, and of course, there's so many other devotees who do like that. And Prabhupada in the first canto, 4th chapter, purport, text 1 in the purport, Prabhupada says, the original purpose. By the way, that's called realization. That's called realization, when somebody's able to do that. When somebody's able to speak in such a way that the audience is benefited in their devotional service, that means that person has realization. You're hearing a realized person speak. And Prabhupada says something about that in this purport here, first canto, chapter 4, text 1. He says, the original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it. Yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. And he says that's realization. So that's what, that's an additional benefit of when somebody really tries to surrender to Krishna. Krishna gives you the ability. Krishna gives you the ability to kind of like, just like Prabhupada gave us, without Prabhupada's purpose, we couldn't make heads or tails of the Bhagavad Gita or most of the Bhagavatam, but he's a pure devotee, and he's kind of explaining, well, okay, this is what that means. So in the same way, we have to be able to do that. Prabhupada bridged the gap, between us and Vyasadeva, or between us and Krishna and Arjuna. So we have to ideally do that. We have to be able to study the books and really read them and think about them and get absorbed in what's there, and then we'll be able to do the same thing for other people. People who are outside, who don't know Krishna consciousness from a bar of soap, and then we'll be able to kind of present it to them in such a way that they'll feel like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's right, that's good, that's important, that's meaningful, like that. That's a gift. That's an additional gift. And it goes hand in hand with the first one, which is that, Krishna dictates within the heart for people to be receptive. Backtracking a little bit here to this point about how, depending upon Krishna, just kind of, even when things are difficult and you're experiencing a lot of challenges, we should just, stick in there, just keep following, keep praying. And, initially, it's kind of like you might be in a lot of anxiety. Well, is it, is it real? Because it just seems like it can't possibly work. But if you do it with repeated experience of how it does work, how Krishna does reciprocate, you become relaxed and confident, even in the face of what you think are insurmountable odds against you. Like I'll give the example is the cowherd boys. They're an example of what I'm talking about. The cowherd boys, when they were there with Aghasura, Aghasura had his mouth opened, and Krishna went in. The other way around. So Aghasura had his mouth open, and the cowherd boys were checking it out, and they were going, "What is this? Is this like some sort of highway or what?" And they were speculating as to, because they'd never seen anything like that before. And then finally they concluded, you know what? It's a big serpent, and he's got his mouth wide open with his tongue sticking out, and he's here to swallow us up or something like that, right? They more or less concluded that, but they thought, anyway, let's go in there. It looks like a fun cave, we'll go in there, and if it is, in the event that it is a serpent, that's okay. Krishna will come and rescue us. So they were so confident, they got to the point, because they were so elevated, they were confident of Krishna's protection. So, not that we should become careless, but you do get more like that. And there's I'll be honest with you, sometimes I'm in situations where, I'm feeling that this can't possibly work. This is hopeless. And so the mind's doing that, but then the intelligence kicks in and says, no, but wait a second, Krishna can make it all work out somehow or another. Just relax, chill out, don't freak out here. Just keep going. Stick with the program. That's the important phrase. Stick with the program. The program is do your service, follow the rules and regulations, and pray for the mercy, and just disregard the anxiety. The anxiety and everything. Just it'll be there, and just kind of go, okay, that's good. Just let it be there, and then just keep going, persevere, and just and watch. Let Krishna do his thing. Give Krishna a chance to do his thing. If you bail out, how can Krishna save you? You got to, you know what I mean? You got to stick it out. You got to, whatever that difficulty is, hang in there, keep doing your service, keep praying for the mercy, and give Krishna the opportunity to come in and save the day, which a lot of times he does. Eventually he will. Anyway, that's kind of what I've experienced on a lot of occasions. And once again, just another point on this thing of, sometimes it's hard to do everything perfectly, but once again, we shouldn't let that be a cause of discouragement. This is when Prabhupada was still around. I don't remember the exact year, but the book distributors were having a meeting with Prabhupada, and so, Prabhupada was asking how it's going and everything. So one of the book distributors pointed out to Prabhupada, sometimes they throw the books in the garbage. We're in the airport. Sometimes people, after they get the book, they take it and they throw it in the garbage. And Prabhupada, without missing a beat, Prabhupada, his immediate response was, what can we do? So they throw their babies in the garbage. So, in other words, you know, you can't do, it's hard to do everything completely perfectly. You know, it's hard to do your service in such a way that there's just nothing, you know, there's no bad outcome. Like sometimes people come to the table and they tell me, hey, you know, we're finding a lot of books in the library here, there, and everywhere. People are taking the books, but they're just leaving them. What to do? You know, I always remember that anecdote when I get, you know, I try to distribute more carefully as well, but then I always remember that Prabhupada said, what can we do? They throw their babies in the garbage. You know, we have to just do the best we can. There's going to be discrepancies. We're not going to be able to do everything perfectly right off the bat, but if we stick with it, if we just, you know, kind of stick with it, keep trying, then we'll get better at what we're trying to do, and also Krishna will reciprocate and just make it all work out somehow. So, I think that's everything I wanted to say. Does anybody have any question? Yeah, they wrote it.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Bhrgupati Prabhu. You're mentioning this point about not giving up, so...
About which?
Not giving up.
Yeah.
So I was just curious to know, what are generally the things that cause people to give up, and what are preemptive measures in order to fortify the consciousness to see that you're able to persevere? Because someone who's not steady in devotional service, they may not have the devotional strength to do it. You know, it's one thing theoretically to think about. It's another thing to actually persevere. So if we know what the causes are, and we simultaneously know like the preventive measures to fortify the consciousness in order to overcome those challenges, then we can have a lot more success. So I was curious if you could speak about that.
Well, just off the top of my head, attachment to the results is a big cause of getting discouraged, because, you know, everybody wants to get a good result from what they're doing. You know, nobody wants to be unsuccessful. You want to be successful. So when you're trying to do something, Prabhupada, I think, says something like that about in the purport in the Bhagavad Gita, that one is unsuccessful in some attempt, he becomes dejected, like that. So that's, you know, a cause of getting discouraged, you know, attachment to the results. And the best way to fortify oneself against that problem and other problems as well is reading Prabhupada's books. That's the best fortification program. You know, Prabhupada wanted us to read his books, you know, in addition to just, say, coming to class, which is good, but in addition to that, we should all, you know, be reading, be studying the philosophy, and you get a lot of encouragement from that. It helps you. The more we're in, you know, spiritual consciousness, devotional consciousness, the more we're going to be able not be affected by the different things that, you know, cause us to get discouraged. That's the best I could come up with at the moment. Yeah, Satchidananda Prabhu.
So, thank you, Prabhu. Please correct me in this analysis that I was coming up. Also, there is this element of discrimination, or how to act in certain ways. For example, when Lord Brahma was giving these benedictions to Hiranyakashipu, you know, or many other benedictions, sometimes Krishna was like, don't do this. Now it's like you're forcing me to do this. That aspect, right? Don't do this, don't do it again. So isn't it that sometimes we can come to the point that maybe we kind of try to force Krishna to, you know, you have to succumb, or you have to come because I'm asking you, please Krishna, come on. Will that be some kind of a like sense of attachment instead of just being, you know, like you do your duty as best as you can, and I'm going to go to, for example, I'm going to Los Angeles, downtown LA. I'm going to distribute books or whatever service, no matter what. Krishna is going to help me. It doesn't necessarily might happen like that. You can just go, there's another environment. And I've seen many devotees, maybe you yourself, you don't go to UCLA so much.
Correct.
Isn't it? Correct? Why? Because there's other options. So for certain things also there are other things in which you don't have to oblige, like Krishna, you got to come because I'm asking you. And that sounds to me like you're almost demanding him, forcing him, instead of like, I do my service as best as I can, and if it happens, but with the spirit of goodness, not too much passion, and just detached but not lazy. No, like, oh, well, whatever happens will happen. Like, you put yourself in, I don't want to do it really. If it happens, happens. It's Krishna's mercy. So maybe you can comment on that?
No, it was a good comment. That's that comment speaks for itself. That's a good comment. That's a good point. I mean, this is like the whole science. There's so many different nuances, things that could be said. But that's a good point. Yeah. Okay, question? Yeah, question, and then Bhakti Maharaj comment. And then that'll be it.
You have very insightful class.
Thank you.
I really appreciate. So my question is, can you say something? Prabhupada said purity is the force. So just look like common sense then. First of all, why people cannot appreciate these books and cannot understand, some of them to some degree, they can understand because they don't follow four regulative principles. And Prabhupada said if somebody eats meat, he cannot understand philosophy. How to speak about illicit sex, too much passion. So same with devotees, my question is, so more we very strictly follow four regulative principles, very, very strictly, special gross and subtle sex, desire for fame and profit, really try to be pure. So question is it to that degree actually Krishna respond and we can externally and internally. Externally result could be, you can say auspicious in preaching, and internally we can understand philosophy much deeper. Is it like that? Is my question.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I'm going to Bhakti Maharaj's comment, and then that'll be it.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, for a devotee, one who understands his position, Krishna's position, there should be no such words as hopeless, or futile, or worthless. These words should not be in the devotee's vocabulary. And that is because if a devotee is truly depending upon Krishna, and Krishna is all-powerful, then Krishna can do whatever he wants to do. Now, just because he's not doing what I want him to do, that does not mean he can't do it. And it doesn't even mean that he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want us to have it. It simply means whatever he means. And we are simply dependent upon his mercy. And whatever, if he gives us something which is very positive, very powerful, very glorious, fine. But it belongs to Krishna. I did really nothing except use the energy that he gave me to acquire this. Other than that, I did nothing. But Krishna is omnipotent, all-powerful. And because he's all-powerful, he knows what we should have, what we should not have, and what is useful, what is necessary for us to progress, to advance, and to go higher in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes that means you don't get this. And sometimes it means you do get this, according to his idea of what would be useful. But we should stop thinking that we're the doer. That, whatever I want, I can get Krishna to do it. Stop thinking like that. Let Krishna do what he wants to do, whether it favors you, whether it pleases you, whether it honors you. That's irrelevant, has no concern. Krishna is the boss, and whatever he comes up with, whatever his conclusion is, whatever he wants, that's what it is. And even if it goes against me, he doesn't let me have any books for that day. Can we take that? Can we accept that? You can keep asking for Krishna, yes, please, but if you don't want me to have any books, well, I made my effort. I did the best I could. I used the energy that you gave me, and nothing happened. So you saw that, so that's the way it goes. And the next day, I'm flooded with 3-4 times what I normally get. Why? Because that's what Krishna wants. And if we are Krishna conscious, then we want what he wants. And if we are not Krishna conscious, we want what we want. And we should stop thinking me, mine, I. Once those words are out of the picture, and the only word is in the, what does Krishna want? And I will do as best as I can to accomplish what he wants. But he's the one who makes it happen. And we should stop taking credit for all these things. You know, I did so many books, I did so many this, I got so much Lakshmi, I. You didn't do anything. And once you have that idea, then if you have nothing one day, it doesn't bother you, because you know you never did it in the first place. You know that Krishna did it, and he used you as the instrument. That way you never have sorrow, you never have depression, you never have frustration, you never have weakness, sense of weakness, because we don't have anything to do with it except make the effort, and the effort is enabled by Krishna's mercy. And if he doesn't give you a mercy, you can't even open your mouth. You can't even say one word. And once we give all the credit to Krishna, you cannot help but feel blissful, even if you didn't do one single book. And that's because you are always thinking of him. And that's what he says, in all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. And such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, me, I, you will be what? Lost. Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.